Hey everybody, my name is Angus Wright, and I also go by Angus by design. And this is a practice that I like to do where I read from a book, and then I pull a card from something called the Gaia Oracle by Tony Carmine Salerno. And so the book I'm reading right now is called Insight Meditation, The Practice of Freedom. And it's by Joseph Goldstein. The back cover of this was published in 1994. And it says, the fruit of some 20 years experience leading Buddhist meditation retreats. This book touches on a wide range of topics raised repeatedly by meditators and includes favorite stories, key Buddhist teachings, and answers to most asked questions. And so this practice, I take about an hour, do some reading. There's an invitation, of course, to get a little bit more comfortable. And it's a practice that I do for me. And I've been practicing as a Reiki master, Reiki being Japanese for universal life energy. And it's just really, how do we make an energetic connection? So basically what I do is I open it up. I kind of look at, it tells me how many people have come through, and and then if they've left hearts or whatever, it says that. So what I do is at the end of the practice, when I'm shuffling my deck, that's the energy I put into it, and it's sort of dedicated to us, right? Or anybody that kind of passed through. And what was the other thing that I was going to say? Oh, and I aim to do it in under an hour so I can repost it. The last one I did kind of blew the hour, but I repost it on my YouTube, same handle. So it's good to see you, brother. So the book I'm reading, Joseph Goldstein is still with us. He was part of the gang in the 60s and 70s that went over to India to learn all about spirituality, but of course they were tripping on LSD and everything else. And he can, like, there's all sorts of ramdas.org, for example, like that's where I learned about Joseph Goldstein. But he also does a whole bunch of stuff. I think the Insight Meditation Society that he's doing is, I think it's like celebrating 50 years. But I'm reading part 5, which is selflessness. So get comfy. I gotta remember to move things around because my computer and the thing thinks I'm frozen. So Big Dipper, the most puzzling aspect of the Buddhist teachings is the idea that experience of non-self. So many questions arise. If there's no self, who makes effort in practice? Who gets reborn and who has memories? Who gets angry? Who falls in love? What does no self mean? Often, people are afraid of this idea, perhaps imagining that they will vanish into the void. But deeply understanding no self is a great jewel of the Buddhist teaching. It is the heart of a free mind. A Sri Lankan monk once expressed it succinctly. No self, no problem. As mindfulness becomes stronger, we begin opening to this radically transformative way of understanding ourselves in the world. We find that we are not who we thought ourselves to be. We are not our body, not our thoughts, not our emotions. We discover that the whole notion of self or I is a concept, a mental fabrication. But if there really is no I, no ego, why do most of us believe in one? Suppose we ask the man or woman on the street, is there an I? Is there a self? Almost everybody will say, of course there is. Where does this firm and usually unquestioned belief come from? Our task is to understand how our mind creates this deeply conditioned idea of self, and to see how we can free ourselves from the power of this great illusion. Mind is the faculty of cognizance, of knowing. When we look for it, we find it invisible, clear, lucid, and naturally pure. Mind knows all sense appearances and different mind objects like thoughts and emotions. It simply knows. Imagine a corpse lying on the ground with loud sounds happening all around. The body is there. The ear is there, but no hearing takes place. Why? Because mind, the knowing faculty, is absent. Awareness itself is the most profound, everyday mystery of our lives. Mind is also more than just knowing. In every moment, various mental qualities arise with knowing and modifying it in different ways. Greed, hatred, love, mindfulness, concentration, conceit, despair, compassion are some examples of these mental factors. They each have their own flavor. Some are wholesome, bringing us happiness. Others are unwholesome, bringing suffering. So there's a natural purity and clarity of consciousness, of knowing, and a great variety of mental factors arising and passing away in different moments. One particular factor of mind often gets out of balance and keeps us imprisoned in the conventional idea of self. This is the factor of perception, whose function is to recognize appearances by picking out their distinguishing characteristics and then to store them in memory through the use of concepts. Woman, man, tree, car, city, ocean are just a few examples of the innumerable things we recognize through perception. When perception arises along with mindfulness, then the surface recognition frames the appearance for deeper and more careful observation. But when perception functions without mindfulness, then we recognize and remember only the appearance of things. A story illustrates how limiting our familiar concepts can be. A friend's son was in the first grade of school, and his teacher asked the class, "What is the color of apples?" Most of the children answered red. A few said green. Kevin, my friend's son, raised his hand and said white. The teacher tried to explain that apples could be red, green, and sometimes golden, but never white. Kevin was quite insistent and finally said, "Look inside." Perception without mindfulness keeps us on the surface of things, and we often miss other levels of reality. One deeply conditioned perception we all have about ourselves and the world is incorrect and leads us to many inaccurate conclusions. It keeps us from understanding what is true. This is the perception of the basic solidity of things. In his book, Crazy Wisdom, Wes Nisker writes, "Our language behaves as though reality were solid. On the simplest level, it positions a subject and an object, which we think of as real, on opposite sides of a verb, which we think of as less than real. Perhaps the Hopi language reflects more closely the laws of nature. For the Hopi, the nouns are verbs. It is inherent in the language that everything is interacting or in process. Many physicists also tell us that action is all there is. Nonetheless, our language keeps piling up static things, leaving us stuck under the illusion of solidity. So I'm going to keep reading in just a second, but my gosh, I'm dried out. But it's a great moment to just give your body a stretch. You can always sort of check in with your breathing, like not necessarily try to force it to change or even be kind of, trying not to even be anxious about it. But just sort of noting it, like for yourself, like how am I breathing? What, is it coming out of your nostrils? Could you use more breath or less? As long as we remain stuck in this illusion, we cannot clearly see or understand the impermanent, insubstantial nature of momentary phenomena. Although we may know the truth of change intellectually in order for it to transform or our understanding, we need to actually experience it in ourselves. Why do we have this perception of solidity? Why is it so deeply conditioned as our view of reality? This hallucination of perception arises from the great rapidity of changing phenomena. When we go to the movies, we cannot see the separate frames of film. They move too quickly to be noticed. And so we remain in the illusion of appearances, overlooking the reality of how magic works. Of course, in a movie theater, that is the whole idea. We go specifically for the illusion. However, when we overlook the reality of our life, it has more serious and far-reaching consequences. The perception of solidity also comes from observing things from a distance. When we look at an ordinary object like a chair or a table, it appears quite solid. Yet, if we put that same object under a powerful microscope, whole new worlds emerge. When we look at trees from a distance, we just see an undifferentiated mass of color. But as we get closer, we can distinguish individual leaves and even the small distinct parts of the leaves. So because we usually do not observe phenomena closely, we satisfy ourselves with a surface impression that does not reveal the composite nature of all phenomena. For example, what is your sense of your body? Do you relate to it as a composite of many different organs, energies, and systems? Or do you view it as something solid that you name body and then claim as being mine? When we observe the body carefully, the concept body disappears. We then experience it as a world of changing elements. You can make a very simple experiment to verify this fact. Just now, move your index finger very slowly, carefully feeling the small sensations of the movement. It helps if you do this without looking at your hand. As you continue moving your finger up and down, concentrating on the sensations, what happens to the idea of finger? It disappears. When you stay in the bare awareness of your experience, the concept vanishes and you know the actual changing sensations. When perception is stronger than mindfulness, we recognize various appearances and create concepts such as body, car, house, or person to describe these apparent realities. We then take these concepts to be actually existing things and begin to live in the world of concepts, losing sight of the underlying insubstantial nature of phenomena. In just the same way, by not examining carefully the composite nature of what we call self, we become attached to the concept and believe that it has some inherent existence. We fail to see that what we are is a constellation of rapidly changing elements. Life is a process of becoming, of conditions arising and passing. It is not happening to anyone. There is no being behind it to whom it happens. On some clear night, go outside, look up at the sky, and see if you can find the Big Dipper. For most people, that is a familiar constellation, easy to pick out from all the other stars. But is there really a Big Dipper up there in the sky? There is no Big Dipper up there. Big Dipper is a concept. Humans looked, saw a certain pattern, and then created a concept in our collective mind to describe it. That concept is useful because it helps us recognize the constellation. But it also has another, less useful effect. By creating the concept Big Dipper, we separate out those stars from all the rest, and then if we become attached to the idea of that separation, we lose the sense of the night sky's wholeness, its oneness. Does the separation actually exist in the sky? No. We created it through the use of a concept. Does anything change in the sky when we understand that there is no Big Dipper? No. The stars in the sky remain just the same, and the pattern of the stars remains the same. We simply see that the concept that names the patterns of stars and that separates those particular ones from all the others does not have any independent existence. Likewise, realizing that self is a concept revolutionizes our understanding by revealing how things have always been. Each one of us is a constellation of mental, physical processes. We recognize the familiar pattern, name it, and then become so identified with the concept that we fall into the great illusion of believing that some being is ultimately there. Joseph is just the same as Big Dipper. Joseph is a concept, a name given to a certain pattern of elements, just as Big Dipper is a name given to a pattern of stars. Our practice is to awaken from the illusion of taking concepts to be the reality, so that we can live in a clear awareness of how things actually are. It should be easy to free ourselves from attachment to concepts, but it is not. On some clear and starry night, quietly look up at the sky and observe whether it is possible not to see the Big Dipper. We have a hard time not seeing it because of strong, conditioned habits of recognition. Of course, we need concepts, and in many situations, they serve us very well. We use various concepts as convenient designations. But if we understand that the words do not refer to solid things that have independent existence in themselves, then we stay free in the use of them. Problems only arise when we forget that they are constructs of our own mind and impute a reality to them that they do not inherently have. Meditation helps us see with bare attention just what is there. We may still use concepts when appropriate, but we do not lose touch with the reality behind them. We learn to look at the sky with a clear and silent mind. we learn to look at ourselves with the same clarity and stillness. Kalu Rinpoche, one of the great Tibetan meditation masters of this century, wrote, "You live in an illusion and in the appearance of things. There is a reality. You are the reality, but you do not know it." But you do not know it, yeah. If you wake up to that reality, you will know that you are nothing. And being nothing, you are everything. That is all. And then the next section is called Birth of the Ego. This is in chapter 5. And then after that is No Parachute, No Ground. Coming to Zero, Ecstasy, and Emptiness. So just reading this, and then I'm going to pull a card after I take a drink. All right. So birth of an ego. So while attachments to concept creates the belief in self, another process altogether engenders the feeling of self. So even as we begin to see the composite nature of our experience, understanding that there is no metaphysical presence we call I, still we have the strong habit of identifying with various elements of changing experience. And it is this process of identification that gives birth to the ego. When we identify with thoughts that arise in our mind, when we are lost in them, captured by them, then we have the sense, I'm thinking, or these are my thoughts. This process of identification happens with thoughts, sensations, emotions, or images. The experiences themselves simply appear and disappear, not belonging to anyone. But the moment we identify with them, we have created a sense of self, a massive hallucination of perception. Although we have become profoundly habituated to this delusion through the practice of clear awareness, we allow the process of knowing different experiences to unfold spontaneously. The power of mindfulness in each moment frees the mind from the contraction of identification. A thought arises, it comes and goes. It does not belong to me. It is just a phenomenon with no one behind it. If moment after moment we reside in this place of non-identification, of emptiness of self, we reside in a place of freedom. As awareness becomes stronger, we learn from our direct experience that every single appearance arises and passes away. In every moment, some object, a sight, a sound, a smell, a taste, a sensation, a thought appears and is known. When we notice this level of impermanence, we begin to understand that these arising and quickly passing objects are not I, not self, precisely because we see them disappear in the very moment of noticing. They simply do not have enough continuity to compose a self. Conversely, though, Conversely, through not seeing the momentariness of phenomena, through not seeing the truth of this changing nature, wrong views jumps in and says, yes, this experience is me. This is who I am. Pay close attention to those times when your mind is lost in thought, creating whole dramas through the process of identification. Then notice those times when mindfulness is quite keen and you simply see the thoughts come and go. There is quite a difference between these two inner worldviews and the contraction or spaciousness they create in our consciousness. In the moment of natural awareness, seeing the arising and passing of phenomena, there is no identification, no self. All right, so I'm going to move these things around because I don't want my computer to freeze and all that. So we're about halfway through the practice. I'm going to put this keyboard up so that I can get more comfortable. I've been sitting a lot, so and I had to dress up and go outside into the real world for a bit. So I'm not in my comfy clothes. But that's the beauty of, taking time to slow down too, right? Because we can adjust whatever we need. So the next section is no parachute, no ground. Again, so this is a book called Insight Meditation. That's also the practice. The Insight Meditation is essentially the practice of thinking about our thoughts or trying to make note of what our thoughts are. It's amazing if you're like me and you have racing thoughts. When I first started doing the practice, it felt like going through, I'm thinking like the Doctor Who opening sequence where you're flying through space, or if you ever drive through a snowstorm at night and the snowflakes are flying at your face, like that's kind of what my mind was like at the beginning of Insight Meditation. But then, just even through continuing with the practice and considering it, 99% of what we hear may pass us by, but that's the beauty of recordings or of reviews or books. We can go back again and again and again and again and again. And even if we miss 90% all the time, the act of practicing or just even trying to pick up like that last thread, knitting is a perfect example. You drop a stitch, you pick it back up, you know what I mean? That's what Insight Meditation is. Joseph Goldstein, amazing guy. He's endlessly fascinating for me. He's super interesting to listen to. He's super interesting to look at. His storytelling is like next level. I love his sense of humor. And as I say, like ramdas.org is where, I like to get a lot of my personal practice and, learn and stay connected. And it's quite cool because a lot of them are the OG crew that kind of brought Eastern philosophies and Buddhism and all these things and stories from India over to North America and Western culture. So it's kind of like in our sort of collective history, which isn't that long ago. I'm also turning 50, so I feel like I'm really trying not to sound like an old man, like already. 50's like, I don't know, 50 seems real to me. So, just being radically like self-carry as well. So the next section is no parachute, no grounds. Say it right on time. So understanding no self does not come from destroying something we call self or ego. The Great Awakening or discovery of Buddha revealed that there was no self, no permanent I to begin with. So if there's nothing we have to get rid of, then understanding selflessness very simply comes from careful awareness of what actually is happening moment to moment. It does not take too long to get a beginning sense that appearances arising in consciousness are not self, because we see how they just keep coming and going. A subtle identification can still take place. However, with the knowing faculty itself, I'm the one who's all knowing all these changing objects, or who's knowing all these changing objects, sorry. We might believe the knowing is I, is self, because knowing or consciousness is much more subtle than other arising objects. You might find it is difficult at first to be mindful of it, but as the mind's power of steadiness, stillness, and clarity grows stronger, we can actually become aware of awareness. At certain stages of meditation practice, it becomes clear that consciousness itself is a changing process. So this discovery can be unsettling because for so long we have identified with the faculty of knowing as being most essentially who we are, taking it to be our soul, our self, our center. And now we see that too, or that it too, just like all other phenomena, continuously appears and passes away. Imagine yourself dropping out of an airplane and free falling for the first few minutes. Imagine the sense of exhilaration. But then you realize that you do not have a parachute, so you panic as you fall through space, falling, filled with terror that you do not have a parachute, until a certain moment arrives when you realize that there is no ground. At that point of understanding, you just enjoy the ride. We often go through a similar emotional sequence in meditation practice. As our identification with things loosens up a little and we see the rapidity of change, at first there can be real exhilaration, a greater sense of spaciousness, but feelings of panic can come when we realize that there is nothing at all to hold on to. Both the objects of awareness and the faculty knowing them are continuously falling away, like water over a waterfall. We understand now on a deeper level that nothing we grasp at for security actually provides it. But as we continue with the practice, enlightenment dawns. There is no ground to hit and no one to hit it. Just empty phenomena rolling on. Then we feel the great relief of letting go, the deep feeling of equanimity, and the joy of ease. That's really cool. All right, gotta move these things around. so that my computer doesn't go to sleep. Coming to zero and ecstasy and emptiness. I think we're doing good on time. Let me wet my whistle. All of this is practice because I'm always chasing hydration. And so it's like I tricked myself. And I take medication that gives me like dry mouth. So not only do I look like a stoner, but then I appear to be one because I have all the symptoms. Like, anyway, coming to zero. The Buddha gave one very short discourse that expresses the insight of selflessness. Did I say that even right? Selflessness very succinctly. I gotta say, Joseph Goldstein uses words. Whenever you see a form, let there be just seeing. Whenever you hear a sound, let there be just hearing. When you smell an odor, let there just be smelling. And when you taste a flavor, let there just be tasting. When you experience a physical sensation, let there just be sensing. And when a thought arises, let it just be a natural phenomenon arising in the mind. When it is like this, there will be no self. There will be no moving about here and there, and no stopping anywhere. That is the end of dukkha, the end of suffering. What does this pithy teaching mean? In each moment, there's just an arising experience, and the sense of I or self or me or mine is something we are adding to it. When we say my thought or I'm thinking, the my or I is extra. They do not belong to the thought itself. As this understanding of no self grows in practice, we often feel that the flow of phenomena rolls on by itself. No one is doing anything. It all just happens. We see more deeply the empty, insubstantial nature of phenomena. The beautiful appearance of a rainbow exemplifies this meaning of emptiness. We see a rainbow in the sky and often feel a moment's thrill. Yet on another level, no thing called rainbow really exists. It is an appearance due to certain conditions that themselves are continuously transforming. Can we live on both these levels at once, engaging in the world of appearances with the freeing wisdom of emptiness? The moment of opening to the unconditioned nirvana confirms most deeply the liberating emptiness of self. In that moment, we come to zero. It is perhaps the most powerful number. It adds nothing and transforms everything. It is no thing, and yet it is not nothing. Coming to zero brings us beyond the somethingness of self. From this understanding of selflessness comes a deep connection with everything. We need not rely on certain forms of relationship to feel connectedness, because there's no longer separation. There is no one to be separate. The writer Wei Wu Wei expressed the same insight regarding humility. True humility is the absence of anyone to be proud. Humility is not a stance. It is simply the absence of self. In the same way, relationship is the absence of separation, and it can be felt with each breath, each sensation, each thought, each cloud in the sky, each person that we meet. And being nothing, you're everything. That is all. All right, ecstasy and emptiness, and then I have a card. I'll pull a card. Ecstasy and emptiness, and this is a short one. Ecstasy can mean different things, and it can come from many different causes. In the course of meditation practice, ecstasy, ecstatic feelings often flood our consciousness when our mind is pure, bright, and luminous. Although they might be wonderful feelings, they arise because of certain conditions and will inevitably pass away. There is another kind of ecstasy. It results from the wisdom of emptiness, of seeing the impermanent, insubstantial nature of all phenomena, where there's no clinging, no attachment, and no fear. In this experience, we become one with the unfolding process of life. This oneness is quite subtle because it is the oneness of becoming zero. It is expressed quite beautifully by the Chinese poet Li Po. It might be pronounced Li Po. We sit together, the mountain and me, until only the mountain remains. Ta-da! So that is section 5 of Joseph Goldstein's Insight Meditation. This was published in the 90s, so I really kind of love thinking about, my gosh, it feels like it could have been written about now. It's definitely something I feel like I need now. I feel the world needs it, Next time will be karma and a bunch of stuff about karma. As I say, my name on here is the same on every platform, kind of thing. That's the other side of almost being 50, is I get around literally and figuratively. So what I like to do is I like to see these kind of things. You'll see people have oracle cards, tarot cards, a deck of cards. It's been around for 1,000 years. Old people like to seem like they're wizards and psychics and all sorts of stuff, and that's great. Like, honestly, I love all that energy. Like, I really do think that people have amazing gifts that I'll never be able to understand or explain. Just like the magic, right? And I don't want to know it. I don't want to know the Cadbury secret all the time, for crying out loud. The internet's horrifying. I know too much. I've seen too many things. I like simple videos. I like animals that are cute. Farts are always funny. Like, you know what I mean? So this, it looks like we've had, oh my gosh. My heart is like actually swelling. There's like 9,978 hearts that's been through this practice. So like all of that is this. All of that is what I'm doing in this hour. I choose to read a different book because I don't need to look like I know any more than I know. I'm going to read the description because I don't need to be like, make a lick a hi, make a honey ho, I see you buying a toaster and it blowing up in your face. Like, I don't need to predict anybody's deal. We're all just chilling out and hanging out, you know? So I love that. I really do love any sign of human connection, even and especially in a digital world, right? There really truly is a digital divide, and we're closing it. And we close it by inviting people, everybody, right? Anyway, I sound like a hippie, but I was born in 1976. So I mean, and you know, my dad was born of the silent generation and my mom was a boomer. So of course I'm this. Anyway, that's the energy. That loving, you know, insight meditation. Having said that, one of the things that I was thinking as well is I love the heart chakra because it really does. It represents the directions we can go. If we start at the heart and we work our way out, you know, the spiral represents sort of touching all the chakras, but even, you know, northwest. Wait, I just did a thing. East, west, north, south. See? All right, top card. And then, ooh. There's there's like a naked woman on here. So I hope this doesn't get me in trouble. It's just art. Maybe I can be the crude police. Purification, water, emotional cleansing, and rejuvenation for anybody who wants to guard their innocence, like me. Nah. All right, so now the Gaia is Greek, and it's like based on the Earth goddess. 32. Okay, so there's a little description, and then there's an affirmation statement. Okay. So purification, water, emotional cleansing, and rejuvenation. So this card signifies healing and rejuvenation, which comes as a result of emotional cleansing. In the coming days, you may experience some emotional turmoil, deep feelings that you thought you had already dealt with or previously resolved resurface seemingly out of nowhere. Do not be concerned, for a profound healing is taking place. And at the end of this process, you will feel all the better for it. The lady featured on this card emerges from the deep waters of her emotions into the light of a new day. Emotionally cleansed and rejuvenated, she now is ready to move fully into her power, free of the emotional baggage that she previously carried. And the affirmation here is, I allow all unresolved feelings to surface. I give thanks for the healing that is taking place. I am emotionally cleansed. I am free of emotional baggage. I release all that no longer serves me. So that's the idea of purification and water. Emotional cleansing and rejuvenation. And yet, right, what we were just reading about is also selflessness. And so that's what I love about it, is that, like, I really love using sort of an external tool to reflect on what I just took in, right? Because, you know, we all hear things, but it's about how we discern those, like how we process them. And for me, it's like when I'm being selfless, like in this moment, right? Like, I don't want anybody to have to feel like they have to give anything or give up anything. You know, I want people to just really feel like I'm opening a space for care, because that's what I do. That's where all my skills are. That's where my practice is. And it's in that selflessness that I get to experience loving kindness, metta, right? Which is all part of like the same practices. Loving kindness being, you know, the act of just being devotional, being selfless, but including ourselves, right? So it's the I, the you, the we, and the everybody. And it's like a multi-dimensional thing. I feel like when I speak of those things just kind of like freely, I always hear the judgment of my past. I always hear and remember and see like every unfiltered comment from every person who felt maybe I was too white to learn Reiki, or maybe I'm too hippy dippy dude to take seriously when I say it's cool to be cool, or it's okay to be peaceful, or it's okay to be open about what we've experienced, but still be really wonderful, loving people. You know, we're all going to have our judgments. And this is the practice where we get to let it all go. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to click the end, and I will see you next time. Keep in touch, y'all.